Hey guys, it's Juliet Chambers with Aberrant Crochet, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about ergonomics and crochet hooks and shapes. There's been some talk about making crochet hooks a little more ergonomic for people. Now, the thing about that is that there are several considerations as to how you would make a hook ergonomical. Ergonomics is the study of how things interact with the human body. Okay? How something interacts with the human body. On the one hand, we often focus on comfort, but it's not just comfort, it's also about effectiveness of the tool. So, for an example, I've got my grandfather's old framing hammer here. Okay? If all you do is put up a couple pictures in a year, the quality of your hammer is not going to matter too much, right? As long as you can nail a couple nails. However, if you're somebody like my grandfather was for a time, as a master carpenter, who needed to use a hammer all the time, if you're using a hammer every single day, well, the quality of your tool is going to make a difference because the reverb going through your arm, the effectiveness of the leverage, you know, handle shape, handle length, is this part going to stay together for very long? I mean, the fact that this was his and now it's mine, I mean, that tells you a little bit of something about the quality. You know, and today there's all sorts of things that can go into simply making a hammer. Part of the idea is, yes, we want comfort, yes, we want to minimize stress in the human body, but part of the idea is also making our tools more effective. And so that's the part that I want to talk to you about a little bit today. Now, we've talked about doing different things to crochet hooks to make them a little more comfortable for people to hold. People have a wide variety of reasons why they want to change their hooks, why they want to change the handles, whether we have hand injuries, whether we have maybe some arthritis in our hands. Sometimes with age, you know, joints are stiffening, or maybe our skin's really dry. You know, there's a lot of different things that can go into why you might want to change that hook and adapt it to you, which is ergonomical for you. The point is, though, it's not always going to be ergonomical for everybody. Just because a company says that they're making something ergonomical doesn't mean that it's going to be across the board great for everyone. Now, most of the time when companies are using the term ergonomics, they are alluding to something being more comfortable or less stressful to the human body. But again, I want you to remember the part that it is also about making a tool more effective. And simply the term ergonomic has to do with the study of how the human body interacts with something. So the fact that they put thought into the design based on their study of the human body does not mean it's necessarily effective. And the term ergonomical or ergonomics or what have you is not a term that's regulated either, just like the word natural. So just keep that in mind. Just because somebody claims that something's ergonomical, understand that they are pursuing the idea of how something would work with the human body, but it does not mean absolutely and utterly that it's going to be comfortable for you. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about different ways to think about what would be ergonomical for you. One of the first things I'm going to point out is hand shape. All right. Now, my hands, if you look at them, you might be able to see that I have pretty short fingers, and my palms are pretty square. Okay, this is not the shape of everybody's hands. Some people are going to have hands like mine. Some people are going to have hands that are a little more slender and narrower and, I don't know, rounder or different things. Now, if you look at my hands, you're going to see that there's a lot of muscle development here and here, and certainly I'm right-handed, so this hand has more muscle development than my left because I use my right hand more dominantly. I have all of this muscle development here because I was a pianist growing up. And because I had short fingers, I had to do a lot of exercises and stretches and flexibility things and strength exercises so that my hands could play an octave and could do as many different playing techniques as I could, in spite of the fact that I didn't have long fingers. A lot of pianists who are really successful, they've got longer fingers, you know, they've got a bigger stretch and a bigger range, and, you know, I barely look like I have knuckles. So, but I love piano. So even though it gave me a bit of a, I'd say almost a handicap. That's not really the right word I'm looking for. It wasn't something that kept me from playing piano. I just had to find a way. Part of that way was developing these muscles. Okay? Now, that's my muscle memory. That's my background. I've developed all of this. So when I crochet, it can't help but translate into that. How I hold and use a hook is in part because of how my hands have been trained all these years on a piano. Somebody else is not necessarily going to hold a hook the way I do, unless they also had that same kind of training and they also have the same shape of hands. So for me, you know, this is how I tend to hold a hook. This is also very similar to the style of how you hold your hands on a piano in a relaxed position. Something else that's important for you to think about too when you're talking about something being ergonomical or being comfortable to you, when you're talking about the handle of a crochet hook, is that it's not just comfortable when you're not doing anything. So I might be able to hold something and go, oh wow, yeah, this is comfortable. But until I've used it for a few hours, I really have no idea how ergonomic it is for me or not. And that's something to really keep in mind. Just because this might fit your hand in a static position doesn't mean it fits your hand in a working position. You see, the human hands are in constant movement. And so it's really important to keep that in mind, that whatever design you've got shouldn't restrict the movement of your hands the way you want to move them. Now, however you move them is going to be somewhat unique to you. For me, I was a pianist, so I tend to move my hands based on that training. I worked with my hands in my dad's shop. It worked with a lot of metal. Using those machines and stuff added to the muscle development in my hands, and the memory of how to use my hand that I have already developed is going to be translated. Okay? So somebody else maybe has an entirely different kind of background. I've mentioned this before, spinners, you know, they have a tendency to do this sort of thing. And maybe they have a tendency to do that with their hooks. Okay? If you have a hook that's shaped in some way that doesn't allow them to do that, they're going to be very frustrated with it. It's not an effective tool for them. And in that regard, it's not an ergonomic tool for them. So the thing is, use a tool that fits your body best. If you have strengths in a certain way, that's the best thing for you. You know, we're not all supposed to be exactly the same. Our hands are unique. Our backgrounds are unique. Our skills are unique. So you're going to find that the best way for you to do something may be slightly different. Now the question is, in the way that you do it, in the way that you move, in the way that your hands move, can we make a hook that is comfortable to you and also makes your life easier? See, to me, that's the concept. So there's our talk about ergonomics. In my next video, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the different types of shapes that you may encounter when you're looking at hooks. And we'll kind of go over a little bit about those different shapes, what they might be useful for, and which people they might best benefit. Thanks for watching.